Good evening and welcome to Normal Islands Live. I'm Curtis Daly and joining me, tonight is Tumble Dryer Maia, aka Maia. It's been far too long since you've been on, but how are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. It has been too long. How are you?
Yeah, I mean, as we're just saying backstage, I feel good. Very, very tired though, because you can say that politics has been difficult. It's always fucking difficult, but I was just saying that I was pretty much having an existential crisis with what's going on. We can make this show though. I'm very glad that you're with me with your great analysis, which is going to be much needed with this big, big story. Now, on tonight's show, we will solely be focusing on the illegal war in Iran, how the media have spun the story, and how the few have stuck their neck out. They've also faced smears. Now, remember, you can help us grow by visiting turnleftmedia.co.uk/support to help fund our work, or by becoming a YouTube member for just 99p. But on with the show. Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei was killed by the US and Israel after they engaged in strikes on Saturday, despite ongoing negotiations in regards to nuclear weapons with Iran. The US and Israel launched strikes on Iran on Saturday, while talks between Washington and Tehran over Iran's nuclear program were ongoing. Iran hit back the same day with missile and drone attacks across the region, including targets in Israel, as well as US military assets in Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, the United Arab Emirates, and Iraq. After initially holding back, Keir Starmer decided to join in on the illegal war after he announced the US could use UK military bases to conduct airstrikes. Just one day later, Iran struck a UK military base in Cyprus. This is what Starmer said.
The death of the Supreme Leader will not stop Iran from launching these strikes. Their approach is becoming even more reckless and more dangerous to civilians. Our decision that the UK would not be involved with the strikes on Iran was deliberate, not least because we believe that the best way forward for the region and for the world is a negotiated settlement, one in which Iran agrees to give up any aspirations to develop a nuclear weapon. But Iran is striking British interests nonetheless and putting British people at huge risk, along with our allies across the region. That is the situation we face today. We have British jets in the air as part of coordinated defensive operations, which have already successfully intercepted Iranian strikes. But the only way to stop the threat is to destroy the missiles at source, in their storage depots, or the launchers which are used to fire the missiles. The United States has requested permission to use British bases for that specific and limited defensive purpose. We have taken the decision to accept this request.
It's worth pointing out, this isn't, for Keir Starmer anyway, this isn't exactly like Iraq for him. He's not doing a Tony Blair explicitly, because Tony Blair did a boots on the ground, full-on military intervention. And Keir Starmer initially did say, look, we weren't part of the strikes. We're not really part of this, which is fine. But then he said, of course, the US asked us to use UK military bases, which to me means you are now part of the war. You are complicit in it. Now, technically, what Keir Starmer has done isn't illegal. It's probably a very fine line, but he hasn't done anything illegal. But again, you're basically supporting Israel and the US in an illegal war. Again, it's complicit. Now, all we've heard from politicians and the media is that Iran carried out unprovoked strikes. It's the same story over and over again. They simply retaliated. If you think Israel has a right to defend themselves, but Iran doesn't, don't even pretend you care about law and morality. NBC tried to put this to the Iranian First Minister. Let's take a look.
So for clarity, you said that your missiles cannot reach the United States by design, that you do not want to reach the United States, but you also said it would be necessary as a defensive vehicle that you could if necessary. So to be clear, are you committing that Iran is not and will not build missiles that would have the capability to reach the United States?
I can confirm, yes.
Sir, if that's a red line for you, why is attacking U.S. military bases abroad justified?
But because they are attacking us. They are U.S. military, installations, facilities, bases who are attacking us. We are under attack. Why don't you, recognize this fact? We are under the attack by U.S. forces in the region. So we have every right to defend ourselves. And how to defend ourselves? We attacked, the U.S. bases. This is obvious. This is a very simple fact. And I hope that, and I'm sure that people would understand that. We are not the one who attacked Americans. We are only defending ourselves.
I mean, if we at Turn Left, a voluntary organisation, can work out that the UK or the US and Israel struck first in Iran, retaliated. If your random no-profile picture person on Twitter can do that, then why can't well-paid corporate media journalists do the same? Of course, we know the answer. They know that. They just refuse to do it because at the end of the day, the corporate media, state-backed media like the BBC, all support this war. Now, the worry, apparently, from Washington is Iran would build nuclear weapons. And dragging us into an illegal war is apparently the way to stop them. But this echoes 2003. The Iraq War. We used the weapons of mass destruction and the regime of Iraq as justification to illegally invade them, causing 500,000 people to die. If Washington was serious about preventing Iran building nukes, then why did Donald Trump rip up the nuclear deal Barack Obama agreed to? So look, a lot of people know that I really despise Barack Obama, and the guy got a Nobel Peace Prize. I mean, this guy's the drone king. Right, he's very much part of the establishment. But one of the good things he did as president was to have a deal with Iran in which Iran would not build nuclear weapons. And Donald Trump, when he came in his first term, by the way, he ripped up that deal. He basically said, actually, yeah, Iran can have nukes. This is all about allowing Israel to completely take over the Middle East, forcing a regime change in Iran and placing the leadership with a US corporate and Israeli puppets. And just in Israeli fashion, a school was bombed in southern Iran. At least 153 people, including children, have died after a reported strike hit a school in southern Iran, according to Iranian officials. Iran has blamed the US and Israel. The US military Central Command, CENTCOM, said it was looking into reports of the incident, while Israel's military said it was not aware of any IDF operations in the area. The girls' school was located in Minab near an Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps base, which has previously been a target. At least 201 people have been killed in airstrikes in Iran and 747 hurt since Saturday, the Iranian Red Crescent said. Yet despite this, supporters of the war have tried to spin this as Iran's doing. Turns out IRGC killed their own children. Will Zach Polanski and the mainstream media apologize for spreading fake news? And attached to his tweets was this link. Breaking, the regime in Iran has now confessed that the IRGC mistakenly bombed an Iranian school yesterday, killing many children. To all the legacy media and pro-regime influencers who peddled your fake news, retract and delete. And attached to that tweet is a screenshot and it's apparent evidence, which is a message in a Telegram channel claiming Iran admitted to the strike, which isn't true. Iran has not admitted to it. But I find it crazy that this person is saying, the mainstream media, the legacy media who pushed this, are you serious? You're telling me that the legacy media are on the side of Iran? Not on the sides of imperialism? US and Israel? What a crazy thing to say. Now, even Grok, a tool favoured by the right wing, said this. No, This isn't true. Iranian regime officials and state media blame the February 28th strike on the girls' school in Minab near an IRGC naval base on US-Israeli airstrikes, citing 40 to 148 now higher child deaths. The IRGC confession screenshots are from an unverified opposition Telegram channel, Radio Gillen, with zero backing from official Iranian sources or major outlets like BBC, NYT, Al Jazeera. Tragic collateral in the strikes, but no own goal admission. So, does standing up for international law, not want to escalate tensions in the Middle East, mean you're a supporter of an ultra-conservative authoritarian regime? No, of course not. But many cheering on the war says it's about the liberation for the Iranian people. We're not stupid.
I'm Iranian. My family's Persian. We came from Iran in the 70s. I have family in Iran that were impacted by this. I woke up this morning and I had to look up at the school my nieces go to is the one we bombed. So, fucking insane. It's not, but, you know, you don't know when you wake up in the morning like this, right? Especially the extent that we're bombing Iran. I don't know if tomorrow I'll find out that my uncle's dead or my nieces are dead or... So,
we heard a confusing mishmash of arguments from the Trump administration about why they want to wage this war. One of them is for supposedly liberating the Iranian people.
I bet you the Iranian people are quite upset with the regime. My family in Iran doesn't like the regime. But what Iranians distrust more than their own government is America. Most Americans forget we ended the Iranian experiment in democracy in 1953. It's well documented that we couped their democratically elected government. And ever since then, Iranians have distrusted the American mission of peace and freedom and democracy. Because why should they trust it, right? We removed their government once when we didn't like it, and now we're trying to do it again. And this bullshit that we're doing is for people. Who would go out into the streets and support the government that just bombed your family, right? Like, that doesn't win hearts and minds.
I mean, it's a very simple point to grasp, right? I mean, this person has family in Iran and is saying, look, we're not, fans of the regime. No one's saying it's a utopian left-wing society. It's absolutely not. It's a ultra-conservative dictatorship in a way. But that doesn't mean you can break international law. That doesn't mean you can bomb schools with children in it. It's about understanding that this is an imperialist plot. Israel wants the land. They want greater Israel. America wants to instill a puppet. And for us, I mean, we literally export our entire foreign policy to Washington. Now, Benjamin Netanyahu was waiting for a useful idiot like Donald Trump to have a president to do his complete bidding.
If not stopped, Iran could produce a nuclear weapon in a very short time. It could be a year, it could be within a few months.
They have the wherewithal, the stored up, preserved knowledge to make a bomb very quickly if they wanted to do it.
Iran is so dangerous. Weeks away from having the fissile material for an entire arsenal of nuclear bombs.
They're very close. They're 6 months away from being about 90% of having the enriched uranium for an atom bomb.
Iran is gearing up to produce 25 bombs, atomic bombs a year, 250 bombs in a decade.
Ladies and gentlemen, time is running out.
Iran will be capable of producing alone, without importing anything, nuclear bombs within 3 to 5 years.
If not stopped,
3 to 5 years. Still waiting. I mean, despite the entirety of the media lying about the whole thing, cheering on war, there are very few and rare instances of some journalists actually doing their jobs.
But your prime minister is a wanted war criminal. You don't have the moral high ground here at all.
This is a war crime. This is a war crime. Targeting civilians, targeting elderly women, killing, murdering her caregiver from the Philippines. And the Iranian regime is targeting not only us in Israel, they are targeting the entire region.
What about the 100 or so schoolgirls in Iran that are being killed in a strike there?
And this must stop. This must be stopped, and this is what we're trying to do. Yes, next question, please.
But what about those Iranian
let's
schoolgirls?
allow others. I'm Lomas.
Oh, next question, please. I mean, the ghoul of Zionists to say, well, do you know what? This is breaking international law. They're doing collective punishment. Are you for real? I mean, I'm sorry, but any pro-Israel person, any Zionist, does not get to say anything about international law. Now, the hope that this war doesn't drag on is that Trump simply gets bored, which is what's happened so many times before.
I'm an Iranian American, and I'm going to tell you exactly what is about to happen in Iran. Within the next week, Trump will completely lose interest in this conflict, just like he's lost interest in every other geopolitical thing that he's ever been involved in. We already see signs of this. Look, when that happens, he's going to declare victory, even if the regime is still intact, which it very likely will be. Then, all of the right-wing influencers that have been supporting this whole operation and calling for regime change are going to pretend like this is what they wanted all along. And them and the White House are going to attack everybody who was freaking out over regime change, saying, you guys were freaking out for no reason, no Americans died, look how fast this was. They're not going to acknowledge that everybody was only freaking out about regime change because they said that their goal was regime change. It is literally the exact same thing which just happened in Venezuela, where he said he wanted regime change, he kidnapped Maduro, he didn't do anything else, he declared victory. Now Venezuelans are under the exact same government with a few dozen people dead because of the American strikes, and just the vice president's in charge, the same regime is still in power. MAGA made that out to be some sort of huge victory when really fundamentally nothing changed for the people, and they're going to do the same thing in Iran. I'm not saying this because I want this to be the case, I'm saying this because this will be the case. And if you disagree with me, if you think Trump really wants to liberate Iranians, bookmark this and come back. The first thing this guy did whenever he came into power was end all immigration from Iran and plenty of other countries. If you think this guy genuinely cares about Iranians rather than scoring some short-term political points, you just have not been paying attention. And I'm sorry, I wish I lived in the world that you think that we live in, but we just don't live in that world.
That person seems like someone I should get my lottery numbers off. But we're also led by one of the most dishonest and shameless men, Keir Starmer. He has dragged us into war. He has been complicit in this. But this is what he said in 2020.
Unquestionably, blindly following the Americans is, in my view, the wrong thing to do.
Trying to sort of gauge what kind of a leader you would be, can I ask you, would you ever support military action if you were the Labour leader in the House of Commons?
I would pass legislation that said military action could be taken if first the lawful case was for it was made, secondly there was a viable objective, and thirdly you got consent of the Commons. I think that piece of legislation is much needed.
Okay. I have to say, I really, really dislike this man. Now, John, I hate him. I do. He has lied about absolutely everything, from domestic politics, saying we're going to nationalise industry, we're going to support trade unions. No, I'm going to democratise the party. Yeah, we're not going to do candidate stitch-ups at local CLPs. We're going to have a peace-first approach. Is there a single thing this man hasn't lied about? No. And yet, he slightly equivocated at the beginning. He sort of held back, and yet all the cheerleaders say, Keir Starmer's a coward, he needs to go to war. He needs to go to war. And he obviously buckled to the pressure of the right-wing voices and Donald Trump, because now he's complicit in it. And it's now a blowback, right? Iran has struck multiple states, including Dubai. But it's this video, which I think is very telling.
Scared. I'm actually so scared. I'm in JDC right now, and I can see... Oh, no. Not meant to be happening here. Can't everyone just chill out? The biggest concern is that people, like, I don't want anyone getting hurt, you know what I mean? Like, I've been hearing loud explosions sort of like in the background all day, and it's like, like the sound, it shakes the windows. I don't know how to explain it. It's like the weirdest sound ever. And now I'm seeing them. This is not fun, guys. We're supposed to be in the safest place. Like, I love the UAE. I love being here. I feel so safe all the time, and now I can see it. Like, please, just stop. Scared. I'm actually...
It's not meant to be happening here. Do you see what that means? It's only supposed to be happening in poor brown countries. That's where the bombing happens. That's where the genocides happen. But here, as a wealthy person in Dubai and the UAE, it shouldn't be happening here. And it just shows how far removed people are from the real world. It's like it doesn't matter if it's happening over there. And look, I don't want to judge this particular person. She might not be very political. She might have no idea. I can't ever really attack people in ignorance. But what I can say is that people going to Dubai, and lots of Brits have gone over there to not pay any taxes, by the way, and the reason why not paying taxes is because the city is literally built on slaves, are decrying violence because they can visually see violence. Yet the fact that that city is built on slaves is violent too, but that doesn't matter. And now they're going to want to come back. Maybe they should go to Rwanda first so we can process these people. Now, despite the establishment pushing really hard for this, the majority of people do not support this war. This is a YouGov poll, and the question is, would you support or oppose allowing the US to launch airstrikes to Iran from RAF bases in the UK? 38% strongly oppose, 9% strongly support. Now, overall, the support is 21%, whilst 58% oppose it, right? No one wants this war. And for those on the right, they'll cheer this war. And then they'll turn around and tell Iranian refugees to do one. In fact, Reform Party leader Nigel Farage has already said so.
Well, if there are refugees leaving Iran, they will be housed in the Middle East. We can't take any more refugees from these conflicts. We simply can't. And if we help get a much better regime in place than the theocrats and extremists that have been there for 47 years, what you would actually see is a lot of people living in Britain who came from Iran originally would go back.
Do you think they should be forced to go back?
No, I'm not suggesting that. I mean, there are Persians here who came from 1979, from the time when the mullahs took over. And I know many of those people that I've met would love to go back to their home country, but away from the barbarity of this regime.
He's a fucking foul piece of shit, that man. Genuine human garbage. And Nigel Farage isn't the only one. But all the scumbags in the media, all the scumbags in Reform and elsewhere, saying, I'm backing this war, right? I'm backing more violence. I'm backing Israel. Because, by the way, Israel's going to want to flatten it. Because you have to remember, when it comes to America in engaging in their regime change, they don't necessarily want to flatten it. In fact, they just want to extract the resources, extract the oil, for example. They have no interest in flattening Venezuela or Cuba. They just want to take it over. But Israel, on the other hand, they want to flatten these places, just like they've done to Gaza, because not only are they imperialist, but they're also genocidal. They believe in the greater Israel. It's not just the land they want. They don't want the people. They want their own people there. And Nigel Farage, who, by the way, recently set up Reform Friends of Israel, is saying, I want us to bomb the shit out of them, but any refugees that come from there, they're not allowed. You're fucking garbage. Maia, sorry, there's a lot to take in there, but I want to get your initial thoughts on this. I mean, we have clearly learned absolutely nothing from the Iraq War.
The goal of the Iraq War was not to learn anything. It was to, I mean, it was many things, but it's no surprise that we have learned nothing when the fundamental basis of the West is still like very colonial and very interventional in a military manner. I'm so thrown. I don't know how to top what you were saying. I feel like I need to be cursing more. I'm not angry enough. But it's so unsurprising when just listening to the vitriolic hatred from these right wingers who don't care about the Iranian people, don't care that you know what I mean. So many people are going to die. So many people are going to die because of this the rhetoric that they are spreading. Every single word that these influential people, these influential figures like Nigel Farage are saying will have real life consequences. And it's not for them because they are making so much money off of the engagement that they get from both people who agree with them, but also people who disagree with them. It is playing with people's lives there are so many, who knows why we, the West, not me, are supporting this kind of invasion and this involvement in Iran, whether it's to do with, whether it's because of Iran's, kind of close friendship with China, whether there's a million things it could be, but when it boils down to it, it's Western interventionism, and it's a proxy war between, it isn't about Iran, it isn't about freeing the Iranian people, it isn't about any concern for anyone in the West, any concern for anyone, particularly in Iran, that are living with the real world consequences of, actually dying because of the hatred that these people are spreading. It's all about, like, that lady stood in the UAE, like, this shouldn't be happening here. I thought I was safe. This shouldn't be happening here, because what the West is trying to do, like the West is trying to do with Israel, is kind of extend whiteness out into the Middle East. They're making these lovely little safe havens for white, posh people. And who knows who they're going to put in power, who the West is going to put in power in Iran when Donald Trump and Keir Starmer just decide that we have won, when all that will happen is that, so many hundreds or thousands of people are going to die for nothing. There will, there's a very legitimate call for regime change in Iran. It's hard to get any sort of, like, concrete statistics because of the suppression that the Iranian regime has upon its citizens, and the lack of freedom of speech. And all of those are legitimate concerns. And it's a kind of a fine line between recognizing legitimate political unrest and kind of anti-government statements, but being skeptic of the interest of the West. My personal opinion is that a regime change will happen in Iran in the next, 15, 20, 25 years for sure. It's a question of what will be the cost of it. Because people in Iran want regime change. The vast majority, any of the statistics, the rough ones that we get, it's like between 70 and 80, 85% of Iranians disagree with the Iranian Republic, not just as a government, but like they want a complete, not just as like a kind of political party, but they want a complete upheaval of how the government is working, because it's not operating for them. It is not, helping them in any way in their daily life. It is actively suppressing them. It's just, what is going to be the cost of revolution for them? Will it be that Iran will end up aligning closer with China and Chinese interests? Or will it be that it's a West, that they kind of align with the West and then get some, kind of figurehead in place that is, I guarantee, probably as oppressive as who they have? What will be the cost of regime change is the question, because it will happen.
I mean, do you think Trump will do the same as Venezuela? I mean, they arrested Nicolas Maduro. They've claimed victory, despite the fact it's the same government in power. I'm sure there's, negotiations with the US. I'm sure there's capitulation on the side of the Venezuelan government, right? But they talked about regime change there. They haven't really had regime change, but they've claimed victory. Do you think, I mean, kind of like that person said in that video, Trump's going to get bored? What do you think? Are they going to go forward with this? Or do you think Trump is going to say, do you know what? Khamenei's dead. I claim victory. I suppose the slight difference here is that Israel's far more interested in Iran than Venezuela.
Yes, I think in regards to what's happening in Iran and what happened and is continuing to happen in Venezuela, it's almost less of a proxy war. It's more of a proxy war in Iran than it was in Venezuela, because Iran is like the spearhead. As I was saying, it is so important to China and the kind of plan that they have of avoiding. They are doing everything they can to avoid any of their money going through the US. And countries like Iran are really important for imports, for exports, for energy, and for fossil fuels as well. So that plays, there's a lot kind of geopolitically that is happening in Iran that just isn't happening in Venezuela, or isn't influencing the Western interventionism. I think probably Trump will get bored and move on as he does, but whether that means that the West as a whole moves on and gives power back to Iran instead of intervening, or whether that means that it's just not discussed as much. It's a bit like, you know, the Cold War. Did it end? Not really. We just don't talk about it. You know, will they overthrow the regime? I mean, regime is a very specific word. You know, having someone else in power doesn't overthrow the regime, because a regime encompasses more than just a government.
Yeah, if I'm honest, I think I'm inclined to agree with you. I think for Trump personally, I mean, the guy's got fucking dementia. He does, and he will probably move on. But in this sense, Iran is so much more important strategically for the Middle East. And again, once Israel really, I mean, think about Netanyahu. We saw on that video or the series of clips over the last 40 years saying basically, you know, I need someone in power to do my dirty work. I think that brings more consequences, and the West won't move on, shall we say, even if Trump does. Also, very interesting point about the Cold War, because I recently watched a video, and I can't remember who said it actually, who said, well, the Cold War's over now. I'm like, well, I mean, I think you're right. We don't talk about it. But it's really good. But let's move on. Before we do, though, of course, as always, got to do my shameless plug. Even though I don't really feel like doing it as well, because I'm so angry. I feel like it sounds strange to ask for money. But of course, we don't get big corporate backers, and therefore we're not going to be supporting blood wars and regime change. But it's 2026, and of course, this year is going to be big for Turn Left. We want to be more ambitious than last year and to really put us on the map. And actually, I want to remind you of what we've done and actually how your money has helped. So this week, we've got Greta Thunberg, Francesca Albanese, Jeremy Corbyn, and many other people are in Amsterdam for the Hague. It's the Hague Group, right? And they're talking about Gaza and Palestine. And on Saturday, I'm flying to Amsterdam to cover it. And I hopefully should be getting some interviews, maybe with Greta herself. And that's because I can afford to do it based on the donations we get. Otherwise, we couldn't. So even though we don't pay ourselves, we can do important journalism whilst working on our full-time job. So that alone is so... I mean, it's priceless. So all I can say is thank you so much to those who've contributed over the years. Thank you so much for the viewers who stuck by us from the first ever video in my flat in Nottingham on a shitty broken laptop on an iPhone to a studio. Okay, it's not a full-blown studio, but we'll get that one day. So your support, your viewership has been incredible. If you do want to support us there, you can go to turnleftmedia.co.uk/support. There is a link to our Patreon, or there is a one-off link to, it's called Coffee or Ko-Fi. You can support us there. Of course, you can support us via super chats and memberships. But of course, we do rely on small donations to get us through. But let's move on. I mean, we're sticking with Iran, but we're going to talk about some smears. Particularly with the Green Party. In fact, Maia is a Green Party member, so it's going to be very interesting to hear what she has to say. Just like in 2003, there are good people who oppose war, who support international law. And just like 2003, those people were smeared as puppets of a regime, traitors, and dangerous. The entire corporate media, the three-way uni-party, Reform, the Tories and Labour, are getting aroused at more innocents being blown up. But there are a few good people. Unsurprisingly, Jeremy Corbyn said this: allowing British bases to be used in an illegal war of aggression is a catastrophic and historic mistake. Britain has been dragged into another war because our Prime Minister would rather appease Donald Trump than stand up for international law. War is not a game. This shameful decision makes Britain complicit in the devastating consequences ahead and jeopardises the safety of us all. Green Party leader Zach Polanski appeared on Laura Kuenssberg and said this.
Well, I think we need to listen to Iranian voices like Rana at the beginning of your programme, who said powerfully she's been waiting for this moment her entire life. We've seen the end of a brutal, murderous dictator. At the same time, though, I heard Rana say Iran is not free, and in fact, the world is no safer. I thought that was quite an astounding interview you just had with the Defense Secretary. We've seen what I would say is an illegal and unprovoked attack. In fact, Jeremy Bowen, the BBC's own international editor, said this is a war of choice. So we've got a Defense Secretary saying that diplomacy is the long runway we need, but he won't condemn Donald Trump when he attacks a country and assassinates its leader. That's the law of the jungle. That's an end to international law, and it's quite astounding that we have a Prime Minister that seems to be singularly incapable of standing up to Donald Trump and letting the UK stand on its own 2 feet. And I'm worried we're going to be pulled into another illegal war.
But if you think these strikes were illegal and you've condemned them, what is your alternative?
Well, the alternative is to listen to the Iranian people and to make sure that we're doing everything we can to foster calm in the region, to encourage...
The Iranian regime didn't listen to its own people. It killed many of its own people who wanted a different government. So why do you think that the Iranian regime, or what's left of it this morning, would listen to Western governments when they haven't for decades?
Well, this is why we need de-escalation in the region, and we're already seeing the conflict spread even wider. I don't have an easy answer on how we make peace and diplomacy and democracy in the region, but I do know that there's no example in history where you've bombed people to democracy. Putting airstrikes for regime change has never led an example where a country is better off afterwards.
But you say that there should be negotiation, you should listen to the Iranian people. I would ask you again, what would your alternative be? Clearly, you don't like it, but Israel and America made the calculation, it seems, it's very clear. If what it took was strikes to end a repressive regime, it was worth it. So what would your alternative be?
Well, I don't accept the presupposition of the question. I don't think it took strikes, because actually Iran were already at the negotiating table. Under President Obama, we saw progress with Iran. Donald Trump took them to the negotiation table, but it was clear it was totally bad faith, because they literally murdered the leader at the same time they were at the negotiation table.
But that leader murdered many of his own people just weeks ago. And if you look at the pattern of Iran over the years, yes, there have been negotiations, but the International Nuclear Watchdog, for example, has upbraided and reprimanded Iran on many occasions for breaking its rules. Iran's been supporting Russia against Ukraine. Iran has planned plots in this country too. So what earthly evidence do you have that Iran would have said, oh, OK, actually, we'll listen to you this time?
Well, I'm here in no way to defend the Iranian regime. I'm here to defend and speak up for the Iranian people.
But the question is, why do you think that negotiation could have been an option here? What evidence do you have of that when it's failed for decades?
Because the moment you've ruled out negotiation, you've accepted that you're going to war. And I don't think the British people want to see another war in that region. So the question becomes, how do you make diplomacy and negotiation work? Now, what I know is negotiation was happening. Whether it was working or not is a legitimate question. But I don't think the answer can be, it's not working, so we're going to bomb and kill them. The answer has to be, how do we work harder to make it work?
I mean, her framing and the questions, I'm going to respond to it in a second, but we do have another very short video, because the particular questioning in this video, I think, is absolutely wild.
You have a country that also fuels terror and exports terror. They have shown for years to be completely disinterested in negotiation or respecting international rules and regulations.
So this is a lie, by the way. She's saying, well, Iran isn't going to listen to you. They're not going to be involved in negotiations. They were literally in the middle of negotiations. They were literally negotiating when Khamenei was killed. And the US like, oh, let's get around the table now. I mean, what do you expect? You kill someone's leader. And by the way, I mean, whether we like it or not, to many people in Iran, you know, Khamenei was like the Pope to them. I mean, how are you going to have negotiations when you do that? But they were already in negotiations. And it's so funny to say, well, Iran doesn't listen to their own people, so why are they going to listen to the West? I mean, again, Laura Kuenssberg is earning hundreds of thousands of pounds per year. One of the most well-paid journalists. Can she not understand, okay, authoritarian governments always suppress their own population. It doesn't mean that they don't listen to external forces, because guess what? External forces are more powerful, right? Iran will get around the table, as they already have, and they're more likely to listen to the West and the US, because the US and Israel have nuclear weapons. So they will see other countries as a threat. They won't see their own people as a threat. Like, just think about that. So the idea, well, they kill their own people, therefore they don't listen to anyone else, that's crazy. That's insane. But all of the accusations here are also true of Israel. So when are we bombing them? And it's very funny how Laura Kuenssberg says, but what's your alternative? Well, at the moment, Zach Palansky is providing the only alternative, because the three-way uni party are saying we need to bomb. And Zach is saying maybe we need to negotiate. And by the way, look, there's no easy answers to this. But the answer isn't to do what has failed, just to go in and bomb this country. It doesn't work. Now, a video of Zach resurfaced showing his support for Iranian protesters under the Khamenei regime.
Last month, I attended a rally in Trafalgar Square where thousands of people attended around challenging the Iranian regime. These protests have sparked all across Iran and have been come to known as Woman, Life, Freedom. It was a cross-party rally, and there were lots of people not from parties there too. Amnesty International, Liberty, Munira Wilson from the Lib Dems spoke. I know Nadia Whittamy has supported, and James Cleverly has spoken recently in support too. It's really important that the Iranian people know that Britain is watching. Iran have interests internationally, they have a presence internationally, and they must answer internationally too. Now, it's always really important when we talk about other countries around the world that we do so with caution and with care. But the Iranian people are literally asking us to be their voice. No one should live a life where they are subject to abuse from their government. And the Iranian people are all entitled to democracy, to govern themselves, and the right to free expression and to assembly. This motion is calling on the Mayor and the Chair of the Assembly to write to the government to call on a halt on all of these executions. The motion is grimly amended because when we originally wrote it, it has a list of people who are up for execution. And very tragically, several of those have now been executed. This shows the urgency of the crisis that we are facing. And finally, I would say this as a non-party political point, but Caroline Lucas has co-sponsored political prisoners, Mohammed Gobadalou and Elham Modaresi. I would encourage any of us with contacts with MPs, whether in London or around the UK, to talk to our MPs and ask them to co-sponsor political prisoners too. The situation is dire. Please support this motion.
Now that is supposedly evidence of Zach being a hypocrite. Where's the hypocrisy? He's entirely consistent. Once again, being against war does not mean you support the regime. Yet the cheerleaders of war want to make that exact dichotomy. They want to gaslight you into supporting regime change. They want to tell you, if you don't support the US being the world police, if you don't support striking people, if you don't support bombing children, then you must be a fan of the regime. They're not, but it's important for them to do that. So you're guilt tripped into basically supporting them. Now, this is what Piers Morgan said about Zach Polanski. Now, watching Zach Polanski spewing shockingly naive and delusional nonsense about Iran. God help us if he and his extreme left-wing Green Party ever win real power. He makes Corbyn look mainstream. Do you know what? I absolutely fucking despise Piers Morgan. He calls himself a centrist, right? But he's, in a way, similar to James O'Brien, Captain Hindsight. They'll say the right thing when it's like 2 years later. Piers Morgan, I've had loads of pro-Palestinian people on my channel. Yeah, that was after you basically covered for the Israeli government. I mean, the first question you asked for a good year and a half was, do you condemn Hamas? Well, not condemning Israel. Right? Same with James O'Brien. He was like, oh yeah, there is a genocide. Yeah, a bit fucking late, mate. This scumbag was against the Iraq War. Piers Morgan was against the Iraq War. He's now become even more right-wing, smearing Zach for taking a position that Piers himself had in 2003. Now, Matt Goodwin, the loser of the Gorton and Denton by-election, shockingly said this. In the last 24 hours alone, we've learned the deputy leader of the Greens joined a protest in support of a regime that planned 20 terror plots against Britain, while their new spin doctor denied Jews were raped on October 7th. The Greens are a major threat to our country. I have to say, fuck these people. Fuck these human garbage people. Abby Wilkinson is the spokesperson for the Green Party, and she's been smeared in the Daily Mail because apparently she said no rapes happened on October 7th. According to Haaretz, an Israeli newspaper, and the UN, there's no evidence that rape took place. However, they also, conveniently in the Daily Mail article, didn't include Abby Wilkinson's second half of the tweet, which she said, but there was one case of sexual abuse, and I believe her. When it comes to Mohsin Ali, they're basically calling him a terrorist. They're saying that he supported October 7th. Now, apparently, the Greens are pulling in £1 million per month. And I mean this sincerely. They need to start suing these fucking bastards. Jeremy Corbyn didn't do it when he was Labour leader. And people lied about him every single day. And they did it because they knew there were no consequences. The Green Party need to stand with their elected representatives. They need to take people like Matt Goodwin, the little sly scumbag, to court, and these vile scumbags with their horrific lies. We can't act the same as when it came to Jeremy Corbyn and his leadership by just ignoring it, because the attacks will get worse as they rise in popularity. The Greens are nearing 20% in the polls. That's why the attacks are happening. Every single person supporting this war is supporting this. The Israelis bombed the Gandhi hospital in Tehran. These are nurses evacuating and transferring newborns to safety. I'm so especially disgusted today by people who had every available moment to applaud and celebrate the illegal assassination of Khamenei and assassinations of other Iranian leaders, but refuse to say anything about their tax dollars elected officials and news media are doing to Iranians. The majority of the victims, as far as we know, are children. Over 100 little girls, ages 7 to 12, were killed in a single US-Israeli airstrike on a school. And included in the tweet is this video. That was a baby in an incubator. Maia, I mean, how do we reject the sense of hopelessness? I mean, we're saying the same excuses with the same attacks against those who speak out, and it feels like a constant doom loop.
I think Zach Polanski is a great person to look at for this, because despite being someone that faces so much hatred from the media, like from the establishment, from mainstream media, from from particularly, I'm an anti-Zionist Jew myself. I don't have the platform he has. The amount of vitriolic hate that I get from Zionists is horrific. I have so much love and space in my heart for him that every single time he's talking, you can see on his face that he comes from a place of compassion and love and kindness. And I think people should look at the way that he operates with so much dignity and so much respect and do something with it. The reason why I think that he has that much and that a lot of people manage to keep their positivity and their kindness is because they are actually doing something in their community, because they are actually educating themselves about things that are happening and what they could do to change it. And, you feel horrific about what is happening to Palestinian people. So you stop supporting Israel with buying their imports, with changing banks to ethical banks. There is so much that you can do in a day-to-day basis that kind of disrupts this. And I think it's focusing on action. When you read all this stuff and then you sit there and do nothing, you'll wallow in pity and just the horror of everything that is happening. But I think horrible things in the world have been happening for the longest time. Western interventionism isn't a new thing. Wars in which millions of people dying isn't a new thing. We just have such availability to information now. We can see everything that is happening anywhere in a way that we couldn't before. And I think that towing the line between consuming that and seeing the people doing good, seeing the fact that in that moment, someone decided to save that baby in the incubator. And I imagine it came at great you see the love in that situation. And then you think, what can I do to give these people what they need? And that's exactly, I keep coming back to him, but that's exactly what Zach Polanski is saying. His support is with the Iranian people. He is not coming at this politically, even though obviously it is political, but he is coming at this with, what can I do to help this situation he comes at things with action. If you come at situations with action, if you look at the horrific things that are happening, and you actually enact change in your community, and just look for ways that you can help in your daily life, and all the people that kind of tirelessly educate, like you guys here, you work this around your daily lives. You go out of your way on a voluntary basis just to educate people and enact that social change. So many people do it, but it's so easy to just look at the horror of everything and not look at the people helping and advocating for change.
I mean, I definitely think that's true when it comes to good and evil in the world. I think that most people are good, and as you see, in times of crisis, people come together. The problem is systems, and it's those in power. They have that disproportionate power. In response to the smears, though, I mean, Mothin Ali has received death threats, and a member of parliament, I think it was today actually, in the House of Commons, basically smeared him, and basically said he supports October 7th, and it caused Ellie Chowns, Green MP, to say this is a point of order, this is incorrect. I mean, I think the problem is that Jeremy Corbyn didn't sue anyone or threaten legal action. I genuinely think that needs to happen, because it's not about getting money off these people, but you've got Matt Goodwin and others just gleefully saying these lies. And of course, the implication here, he's Muslim, right? Oh, he's a Muslim, he hates this country. That's the implication. But if they feel like there's no consequences, they're going to keep on doing it. If you threaten legal action, I think people might think twice.
You have a lot of faith in the legal system.
It's not about whether they get a victory or not, but I think there's that fear. If someone says, I'm taking you to court now, and you get a letter in the post, I think at least people might think twice. At the moment, if you're just saying whatever you want and no one comes back, at least surely that's worth it to stop these genuinely horrible, disgusting people making lies. And again, Mothin Ali has received death threats. I think these lies about him will do him harm.
Absolutely. It costs a lot to sue people. The Green Party does have a lot of money coming in. I'm a Scottish Green Party member because I live in Scotland. I don't know as much about the Green Party in England and Wales.
Yeah.
The pot of money that the right have is endless. Endless. The amount of money that the Green Party are getting is finite. It's amazing, but I don't know that they want to use that money. This is entirely speculation. I don't know that they want to use that money on suing when they could actually use that money on campaigning positively. I do think that suing would categorically help. I don't know how it would play out in real life.
Yeah, that is a good point. The right do have endless money, and I suppose, in a way, you'll use and actually it could have the reverse effect. It could be, actually, this is great. Let's say more smears, because the more time and money they're spending on me and whoever is less money on canvassing. So maybe it's that. I think it's just my anger is like, oh, get to these people.
Do something. Do anything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's a really good point. I think that's enough. It was a very interesting point, a good contribution. I really want to see the comments, actually. I think we should bring up the comments and bring in our producer, Sarah. Sarah Delisle is our producer today.
Hello.
How are you? And I'm sure there's some really interesting comments to get through.
There's really interesting comments. I've actually struggled to get through them today. So I haven't actually reached the bottom of the pile, but there are some really interesting comments. Firstly, great show. I've really enjoyed it. It's great to be here. Let's go to super chats really quickly, because there was some great super chats coming through with some great comments. Michael's been really pushing Twitch, which has been lovely. So yeah, if you could pop to Twitch, so you can get them affiliated. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I think we've got like 17 viewers on there.
Big up Twitch. Oh yeah, I haven't said who's the producer today, but it's me. Specs gave 5-10 left membership. Thank you so much, Specs. Hope you're well. And then not really Rachel Atwood said Bib stayed in Jared Kushner's 1980s bedroom in New Jersey. And then Third Eye Blind gifted £10 and said, "Go on yourself, curious lad. Let him have it."
It doesn't always come out, but I think it has. It's been brewing over the weekend, so yeah, thank you.
Yeah, lots of people were really supporting your rant, which I was backing too. Antifa Vegan Boy gifted 10 Turn memberships, as he always does. Thank you so much. So let's go to the comments. I'm not going to go in any particular order, but I'm actually quite interested in. Let's just start off with the most egregious one. It's 2026, and under Iranian law, the age of criminality for girls is 9, but it's 15 for girls. I don't know what you're saying about that. A regime that has no conscience toward women can't have conscience enough for nukes. Essentially, Cheryl's been doing a lot of comments, basically criticizing the Iranian regime, which we all criticize, but basically saying that the Iranian regime, what's happening at the moment, is justified to Iran. That's essentially what her argument is. People can correct me in the comments, but that's what I've understood from her comments. There was a long slew of comments that she'd done, but this was, I think, the most shocking. So what would you guys say in response to this? Because I think there's a lot of people that would use this talking point to justify what Israel and America are doing to Iran. So what would you guys say in response?
I don't know that any country has conscience enough for nukes, but that's my opinion. But it is so easy to fall into the trap of, if A is true, then B is true. If Iranian people are being oppressed in their dictatorship, then we should come in and save them. But realistically, all that happens when we do that, in the West, is that we set up these governments that are in our interest, that do not actively help Iranians on a day-to-day basis. We're going in and bombing them. We're killing their children. The only thing that is going to do is that is going to radicalize them into terrorism. That's the breeding ground of kind of anti-Western terrorism, is the US, coming in, and the West coming in and bombing them and harming them. It will only radicalize people.
Yeah, and look, Cheryl, first of all, I think, I assume you're saying criminality for girls is 9 and boys is 15. Yeah, so first of all, no state should have nukes. I agree with that too. Okay, so there's no country that's conscious for nukes. It should not exist. I mean, it was, if you've seen Oppenheimer, you'll know it's a disgusting invention. The problem isn't whether people should have nukes or not. The point is, who's going to get nukes, and is it going to be more likely? And right now, what's happening is you're pretty much ensuring Iran's going to get nukes. Because as I said at the top of the show, Barack Obama struck a deal with Iran in which Iran said they weren't going to build nukes. And they stuck to that. And then Donald Trump came in and ripped up that deal. And not only that, Israel in the past year has struck Iran multiple times. Last year, the US struck military bases in Iran. And of course, what transpired over the weekend. So if you've got big, massive Western powers who are saying, we're not interested in negotiation, we're going to kill your supreme leader, and we're going to rip up any kind of deal that prevents you from getting nukes, what do you think is going to happen? Like, put yourself, I mean, I'm sorry to do this, but put yourself in that situation for a second. I think, if there's more threat externally, are you not going to want to have nukes? This is going to push them towards nukes. Right? This isn't about stopping nukes, by the way. When Keir Starmer stands up and says, we can't let Iran have nukes, or when Trump says it, it's not about them not having nukes. And it's very ironic when Israel has nukes and the media doesn't want to even acknowledge that. The US has nukes. Why should some countries have nukes and other countries not have nukes? Why should countries with nukes get to dictate what other countries should or shouldn't have nukes? Again, no one should have fucking nukes. But if you want to stop countries getting nukes, right, then don't piss them off. It's the same in which 2003, Jeremy Corbyn said, when he spoke at Stop War Coalition, he said, this will create blowback. This will create more terrorism. And you've got people saying, the people on the right wing saying, we need to obliterate Iran because they're funding global terrorism. Guess what? When your family is bombed, right, what do you think that's going to do to you? If you're Iranian and you know that there's a fucking US flag written all over a bomb and your daughter was killed at school, are you going to be radicalized? Are you going to want death to the West? Like, think about the external factor to this. Think about that. That's the point we're making. It's nothing to do with, well, you know, Iran, they should have nukes too. No one should have fucking nukes. But the best way to stop people from getting nukes is to give them excuses to build them in the first place.
Really, really fucking great point. And actually, it's because one of the comments was this. Here's the conversation we need to be having. Why can't certain countries have nuclear weapons, but the US, UK, and Israel can? And you were basically alluding to that in your rant. And I think a fucking excellent rant, which ties in quite nicely to don't hold back, Curtis. There's been like so many comments as well that I'm seeing pop up, but I can't get to in time. Basically saying, Maia, that you're excellent and you're amazing and that they love your contributions, that your analysis is 10/10. So we need to recognize that. So big up Maia in the comments, please, because analysis has been 10
Absolutely.
out of 10.
Thank you.
There's also Giza Breck. That's Giza Breck.
Giza breakfasts?
Or Breck for fuck's sake.
Giza breakfast.
Oh yeah, Giza breakfast. Oh yeah. It's not our country, not our business. She has only what she has been fed, and that's referring to Laura.
Right, okay. Yeah,
a lot of people do say this as well. And the reason why I brought this up, boss or not bot, is because people say, but we're not involved. So why are we getting involved type thing. So what would you say?
I think inherently we should care about other countries. I think we should care when other people are being abused by their government. I think that my compassion for humanity extends beyond my country. I also recognize that Iranians have a right to the kind of self-determination, and they have a right to decide their government and how they are governed and the rights that they have. I don't think that we have the right to bomb them. I don't think that we have the right to nuke them. I don't think that we have the right to wage a war against innocent people because we don't like who's in their government.
I mean, I think when it comes to interventionism, you have to be careful, and it has to be a case-by-case basis too, right? There's no blanket approach, because for me, I generally consider myself non-interventionist, but I think I say my red line is genocide. Like when it came to Rwanda genocide, when it comes to the genocide in Palestine, and the difference there is like, it's not all, look, Israel and Gaza is not a war. Israel-Palestine is not a war. And Palestine isn't even recognized as a state. It's a genocide. And I think it's our duty to send in troops to stop it from happening. It doesn't necessarily mean you just bomb Israel, but we can send people there. But we can do that via the UN. There's so many different ways in which we can do this. And when it comes to Iran, as an internationalist, we have a duty to try and make people's lives better. We want the best for those living under authoritarian regimes. But you also have to think, does killing more people get to that point? Because the problem is, even when, like North Korea, for example, a place which is terrible to live, right? And you wouldn't want these people living in it. But if we were to go on an all-out war, that spills into the rest of the region. And all you're doing is just condemning more people. Now, that's not me saying, screw these people, leave them alone. They can, let them suffer. I'm not saying that. But you have to think, just having a knee-jerk reaction and going in and saving these people means that a lot of the time that violence spills elsewhere, and it creates a very messy vacuum, which is what happened in Iraq. The justification was going over there because Saddam Hussein was a brutal dictator, but what happened? It destabilized the region, it created a vacuum, and it created ISIS.
Absolutely. Yeah, great point. And you mentioned James O'Brien. Apparently James O'Brien this morning on LBC was basically saying Starmer was right in all his decisions.
Of course. Starmer. Lovely stuff. Fucking the guy would never criticize Starmer. Well, guess what? If there was any other Labour leader, they'd be 20 points ahead. At the moment, they're fucking 20 points behind. How's that Captain Hindsight? I really despise that smug prick so much. He has a book called How to Be Right. And the irony is he's always wrong. He's always wrong.
No, he's always right 10 years later.
10 years later, yes. Captain Hindsight.
Too funny. And then on the... I'm actually jumping from comment to comment, sorry. But when you're exposing Starmer's lies, and then someone was like, "Good job, turn left." When you're, but if there's one person you
it's
can
not even
trust,
hard to
always
do,
gonna
though, is
do
it?
Yeah, but Curtis is always going to hold Starmer accountable, as we all try to do. But yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
And then Edward said, and I was hearing this a lot today at work. So the UK is now a legitimate target. Cheers, Keith. I think a lot of people are kind of like worried, but I feel like this worry should have been here a long time ago, even before, you know, Israel and the US did what they did yesterday and 2 days ago, whatever. Like, I think people, again, their empathy only seems to extend when it starts to impact them. And I think now there's conversations about oil, the price of oil going up, and fuel. And I just now anticipate everyone's going to be like really angry about it. But I'm like, why are you not angry before? But you're only angry because it's impacting you.
Well, I mean, to be fair, the people do not support this.
No, they
polling
don't.
shows that. In America as well, polling doesn't show that. So, like, generally, people are not in favor of war. I know, crazy, right? The problem is we have a lack of a functioning democracy. Well, we're just led by fucking psychopaths who do what they want. It's kind of it, right? They do what they want. I mean, I'm glad you brought the cost of living and inflation, because that's a new layer we haven't even covered yet, which is something that's not going to help Keir Starmer, by the way. He thinks he's such a genius. Well, guess what? The price of oil is going to go up. People's bills are going to go up, and they're going to look at Keir Starmer.
Exactly. Be
There's
like,
no
why
political
the
nous
fuck did you do
whatsoever.
this? Exactly, it's ridiculous. There's no forethought that's happening with the things that are happening, and it's like it's not bloody worth it. And then what did I want to go to? It kind of ties in quite nicely with, I think I saw Will's Talks has been on our channel before, and he's amazing, and he did a video in response to the video that you put up of I think she was from New Zealand or Australian, that was like, it's not supposed to be happening here. And then it kind of it's like that white privilege almost really, really coming through, but only poor brown countries, not Dubai. Like, that's kind of the energy it was giving. And then Rachel said, she reminds me of the white South African tourist who was crying about political unrest in Hong Kong when she was there, asking why people wouldn't just shut up and bow to Beijing.
I haven't seen that, but that sounds so ridiculous.
So ridiculous. But that is like essentially it for comments. But I think everyone's kind of just on the same page in that, like, they don't want war. Like, please make it stop. And I think everyone's kind of just worried about what's going to happen, really. But really great show, guys. Honestly, honoured to be sharing the space with you. And I'm going to retreat.
Thank you so much, Sarah, for being a wonderful producer, and thank you to the comments. Thank you to everyone who put up with my swearing. I mean, I swear now and again on the show, but I think I went a bit overboard, but I had to let it out. Maia, it's been such a pleasure to share this show with you. Fantastic analysis. So where I was getting angry and stuff, you were coming in with cool, level head. So thank you for coming on.
Good cop, bad cop. I had to even you out. We can't both be swearing.
True. Next time you could be the sweary person, then maybe. We'll have to get you on soon, though. Yes. We'll have to get on soon because it's been too long. But again, thank you so much. Thank you to everyone who tuned in. Remember, we go live every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 7:30 p.m. You've been watching Normal Islands Live, and we'll see you Wednesday.